Namaste yogis, welcome back to another hour of extreme yang with a little bit of yin, apparently, is now what my classes are called. But we're gonna get started. Hallie's gonna be demonstrating today, so we'll just start off in child's pose, which is a yin pose, I'm gonna add. So just sitting on the tops of the feet, big toes touch. The knees can touch as well unless you prefer to open them comfortable width apart. Arms can extend forward. This is going to be a bit more active. It'll open the front chain of the body. If you want to be a little bit more passive, you can wrap your arms down the sides of your body, allowing the shoulders to round. But wherever you end up, go ahead and just close your eyes. And soften in your efforts, right? So the practice of becoming present is very much that. It is a practice. So just because you come onto a yoga mat and you end up in child's pose or you lie on your back, it doesn't mean that the body and the mind are necessarily ready for it. So we want to make a gentle transition as if we're switching gears. And so any fidgeting within the body in the beginning is totally acceptable. But closing the eyes and kind of noticing where the body's at from the inside out, tightness, tension, aches and pains. Acknowledge your mind, along with any thoughts, anxieties, or anticipations that may be coursing through it. And then we'll eventually just land on the breath, watching every inhale and every exhale. So together, let's go ahead and let go of a nice long exhale. And take a nice deep inhale through your nose. Send that breath to the hook of your tailbone. Feel your ribs expand out horizontally. And then open up your mouth. Take another long, slow, deep inhale through the nose, filling from the bottom to the top. This time holding your breath. Unless you're pregnant, you always want to keep breathing. And then open up your mouth. One more deep inhale through the nose to hold. This time keeping your lips sealed. Let's go ahead and slowly just exhale out the nose. And then continue to breathe in and out your nose as slowly and as deeply as you can. Just mindfully breathing, nothing controlled or forced necessarily. Just being a bit more mindful with it. And remembering that the breath is really the one thing that keeps the body and the mind connected, calm, centered, and focused. So with that, on an inhale, we'll go ahead and slowly extend the arms long to the front of the mat, opening up the hands, shoulders distance apart. Spread your fingers nice and wide. Take a nice deep inhale. As you exhale, we'll come to all fours or tabletop. Your knees, open or closed, they stack directly into the hips, wrists directly into the shoulders. And then with an inhale, cow, drop your belly, lift the tailbone, and glance up to the sky. Exhale, cat, tuck your tailbone, round through the shoulders, let your head hang. Inhale, gentle sway in the back, just like a cow. Exhale, round and curl like a scared cat. And then just go on your own, breath per movement, back and forth. If you want to flip your fingers out to point to the edges of the mat or even back towards your knees to get into the inner wrists, the forearms and biceps, you can. Pressing into the tops of the feet and the shins. Unless your toes are tucked, then the heels just have to press back, but you do want to energize the legs. Any circular motions within the hips, the neck or shoulders, feel free to take them. And with your next inhale, we'll come to a flat back or neutral spine. Go ahead and tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. So feel free to pedal out your feet, come up and down on your toes a few times, whatever feels right to the body. Make sure you didn't move the hands. They should still jet straight up from the shoulders. Ideally, it's your index and middle finger that points straight forward, but if you're sensitive and the wrists are super tight in your shoulders, you could turn your hands a little further out. Then as you look back at your feet, I want you to let them rest, hips distance apart. Make your heels spin back and just slightly out so they disappear behind your toes. And then even if you have to bend the knees a lot, I want you to think of lifting your hip creases straight up to the sky as if they're a rope pulling them towards the ceiling. Releasing the lower back, but then knitting the front ribs and even your sternum bone in so you're not dumping or swaying into the upper back. Your goal is to lengthen and accentuate the natural curves and convexes of the spine. Now keep that within the spine, the height of your hips, and just begin to play with pushing the tops of your thighs straight back to help anchor the heels down. And then keeping your head and neck relaxed, we'll just consciously think about the hands. Can you lift just your fingertips up off the mat? You want to ground down to the whole circumference of your palm. And then as your fingers spread wide, fan them into the mat, root each knuckle, ending with your fingertips. Now keep your hands as they are, but you're going to hug your shoulder blades to the outer rib cage. Wrap your triceps back, and then I want you to think of lifting your forearms forward. And then with an inhale, we will come forward, high plank or top of a push-up. Hips level out with the shoulders, drive your heels back. Firm your thigh bones up towards the ceiling, but keep the hips level with the shoulder blades, even if you have to drop to the knees for modification. Tuck your tailbone so you can pull your lower belly in. With the wrists, elbows, shoulders stacked, the triceps still wrap back, and you push down so much into your hands that the chest and the back of your head actually lift. As the space between your shoulders get very broad, make sure you hug the shoulders down the back so you're not doming or rounding the upper back. Take a nice deep inhale. As you exhale, downward dog, lift your hips, let that go. Inhale, come forward, high plank. And exhale, downward dog. One more, inhale, roll forward like a wave. And exhale, pulling back. Now inhale to high plank. From high plank, if you need to drop to the knees, I want you to lean your shoulders forward, jet them out over the fingertips. Then with an exhale, hover halfway down. Hug your elbows back, look forward for 3. Keep breathing, 2, and then release to the mat on 1. Tops of the feet flip down, lift and lengthen the crown of your head forward and up, low cobra. Make sure the wrists do stack under your elbows as the elbows hug back. Tops of the feet press down so the shins and knees lift. Draw the tailbone towards the earth so your pubic bone presses into the mat. And then with an inhale, maybe lift a little higher. Exhale, forehead to the mat. Tuck your toes. Drive your heels back enough that now the shins, the knees, and even the thighs firm up. Elbows still hug back. Shoulders draw away from the ears. Now I want you to pull the front ribs and lower belly in and just lift up halfway to that low plank for 3. Breathe, 2, and then inhale, high plank. Exhale, downward dog, lift your hips. Now let's piece that together, breath per movement. The push-up on the way out is included. Back bend of your choice. Inhale to high plank. As you lean out, exhale, chaturanga hover. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Now exhale, bend your elbows, tuck your toes, high plank on the inhale, and exhale, downward dog. So from downward dog, let's go ahead and inhale the right leg to the sky. Bend the knee, right heel pulls towards the bottom, right hip lifts up towards the ceiling. But wrap the outer right shoulder and rib cage down so the torso stays square. Drive the left heel down, and even think of hugging your left hip crease back and lifting it up, and then lift the tip of your right knee up a little higher. Finding a deeper stretch, take a nice deep inhale. As you exhale, pull the knee to your chest, shoulders land at your wrists, and pause. Keep the hips where they're at, pull the knee to your left elbow, and then to your right elbow. And then back into the chest. And then inhale, lift the leg up and back, bend the knee and open the hip. Exhale, pull the knee to your chest, to the left, to the right. Back into the chest, and then inhale, stretch it to the sky, opening your hip. Exhale, pull the knee to the chest, knee to the left, to the right, back into the chest, and then inhale, stretch it to the sky, opening the hip up. Exhale, knee to chest, go on your own. Remember, you pull it to the left, to the right, but also back into the chest before you lift it back up to the sky. Becoming more mindful of the movements, not rushing it, just breathing through it. We'll do one more set wherever you're at. And then with an inhale, we'll meet with that leg lifting the hip opening. As you exhale, pull the knee to your chest, look forward and gently step in between the hands. Go ahead and drop the back knee, top of the foot to the mat, and slide your leg back an inch, maybe even 2. Plant your left hand where it is. We'll reach that right arm just up towards the sky, opening the chest. Push down from your left knee to the tips of your toes. You're not only pushing down, but think straight back. So you really have to think of hugging your outer left ankle in. Make sure your front knee stacks at the center of your ankle in every direction. And even though your hips are descending forward, I want you to imagine squeezing the inner thighs at the groin closest together. Pull the lower belly and front ribs in. Wrap the lower left shoulder blade down the back. Lengthen your left ribs forward. Take an inhale, maybe look up. As you exhale, right hand to the mat. Pause, reach both arms up to the sky. So low lunge crescent. Again, the hips, they sink forward and down. They get heavy, but the inner thighs hug together at the groin. Lower belly pulls in, those front ribs knit in. So you're actually creating less space between your pubic bone and your sternum bone as the tailbone draws under. The arms get straighter and stronger. Triceps wrap forward, shoulders broaden as the tops of the shoulders go down the back. Now keep that upward reach. It'll help if tuck the toes in the back foot, drive the heel back and reach up even higher to lift that left knee up. Keep a bend in the back, and if you need it, to tuck the tailbone down and lift the front of your pelvis up. Soften the face, breathe, take a nice deep inhale. Exhale, left hand to the mat, circle your right arm up to the sky. Same thing, only different. Now the back leg is active, left heel pushes back, left thigh bone lifts up. Front knee still stacks at the ankle. Push into the left palm. Wrap your left shoulder blade down the back. Now freeze your entire body, but inhale your top arm up and overhead, palm facing the mat. Right tricep wraps down towards your cheek. As you wrap your left side ribs towards your inner right thigh, maybe look up. Take an inhale. Exhale, right hand to the mat. Step your right foot back. High plank, and let's pause in high plank. I want you to go ahead and drop your left knee directly under your hip. You can keep the left foot pointing straight back or swivel it out to your left. Turn your right heel down, reach your right arm up to the sky for a modified side plank. Ground down to the knife edge of your back foot just like you would for warrior 2. Push into your left shin, the top of your foot into that left palm just like we've been doing in the twist. Wrap your left shoulder blade down the back against the left rib cage, lengthening forward. Front body hugs in. If this is enough, stay here. If you want a little more, you're going to float that right foot up off the ground, flexing the foot as if you're trying to karate kick a hole through the wall behind you. Option to stay here. If you want to go further, you might bend that right knee, grab hold of the foot with your right hand, and then kick the foot away from you. Think an upper back bend through your heart, through your shoulder blades. Pull the lower belly in to support the lower back. Breathe. And then without letting it throw you off balance, very slowly kick your right leg back, reach your right arm up, pause, take an inhale. Exhale, right hand and foot down, high plank, stepping back with the left. Chaturanga as you're ready. Inhale, cobra or up dog, and exhale, downward dog. And from downward dog, we inhale the left leg to the sky. Bend the knee, heel pulls to the bottom, left hip rolls open, but your left torso, it stays square. Right heel pushes down for now, and that outer right hip hugs back and lifts up to actually find more of a stretch. Take an inhale. Exhale, pull the knee to your chest, shoulders land at the wrists, and we pause. Everything freezes, but you take the knee to your right elbow, and then over to the left elbow. Back into your chest, and then inhale, lift it to the sky, opening the hip. Exhale, pull the knee to the chest. To the right, get into your obliques. To the left, feel your lats. Back into the chest. Inhale, stretch it back, open it up. On your own, breath per movement, knee to chest, to the right, to the left, back into your chest, and then opening the hip up to the sky. Find your rhythm by following your breath. Just remember, it's not about how many you get in or how quickly you get it done. Think quality rather than quantity. And the guiding force should be your breath. We'll do the last one wherever you're at. And then we'll meet with the leg lifting, hip opening. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, knee to chest, stepping next to your left thumb. Drop the back knee, top of the foot to the mat, slide it back a little bit. Right palm planting will reach the left arm up to the sky, twisting. So right knee to the tips of your toes, pushing down and straight back. Hips are getting heavier, but the inner thighs are activating and squeezing together. Front knee has a tendency to jet out away from the chest, so hug it in, make sure it stacks at the center of your ankle. Right palm pushes down, roll your right shoulder blade down the back, that'll help hug your tricep back. That top arm, you just need to reach it straight up, don't try and pinch it back behind you. Let your spine do the twisting, lean your right ribs towards the inner left thigh, take an inhale, maybe look up. Exhale, left hand down. Inhale, both arms to the sky, low lunge crescent. So front knee stacks at the center of your ankles. So you're using bone structure rather than ligaments and tissues to support you. Pressing into that front foot so you can actually feel that energy lift the front of your pelvis up. That left hip should lift away from the top of your thigh. Pushing into your right shin to help allow the hips to get a little heavier. Lower belly and front ribs pull in. Back ribs jump up off your kidneys, triceps wrap forward as if you were karate chopping your arms forward without actually letting them go forward. The tops of your shoulders will drop. Lift out of your waist. Now keep reaching up. You'll tuck the back toes. Reach higher to lift your back knee up. Drive the right heel back. The back knee can stay bent, especially to help mobilize the pelvis. Pull the lower belly tight. Look forward and maybe eventually even up. Take an inhale. Exhale, right palm to the mat. Circle your left arm to the sky. We will twist. Right heel pushes back. Right thigh bone lifts up. Nice 90-degree angle on that front leg. And remember, in the arms, they're straight. That bottom shoulder blade wraps down the back and the ribs lengthen forward into it. Now let's take the top arm up and overhead, palm facing the mat, tricep tugs down towards your face, front ribs pull away from your inner thigh, and then you twist your right side ribs towards your left leg to lean back. Nice. Take an inhale. Exhale, left hand to the mat, step to high plank, and we'll pause in high plank. Drop the right knee to the mat. Turn your left heel down, maybe turn the right toes out, reach your left arm up. Modified Vashi. Right palm presses down, right shoulder blade hugs down the back. That right knee, if it's not directly under your hip, it's not going to be supporting you. It's just going to be weighing you down. Ground down to the knife edge of your back foot. Unless you want it, float that left foot up off the ground. Pull the front body in to help support you, balance you. Staying here. If you want a little further, bend the left leg, reach back with your left hand. Think Chapasana. The bow variation, right palm presses down, chest opens by the spine lengthening to bend. Breathe. And then very slowly, inhale, reach that left arm up, left leg kicks back. Take an inhale. Exhale, high plank in your own time. Chaturanga as you're ready. Inhale, cobra or up dog, and exhale, downward dog. From downward dog, we'll inhale. Bend the knees, draw your hips way back and look forward. Exhale, take a giant step walker, maybe jump to the front of the mat. Inhale, flat back, lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold in. Now at the same flat back, inhale, Tadasana, circle your arms up, little bend to the knees, come all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center, Samasthiti. Inhale, circle the arms for the sky, Tadasana. Exhale, forward fold, hinge at the hip. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, Chaturanga. Take it down and back. Inhale, cobra or up dog. And exhale, downward dog. From downward dog, we will inhale, bend the knees, look forward. Exhale, walk or spring to the front of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold in. Reverse swan dive. Inhale, circle your arms to the sky. Exhale, Samasthita Hi, prayer in front of your heart. Inhale, reach for the sun. Exhale, bow forward towards the earth. Inhale, glance out. Exhale, chaturanga in your own time. Find the back bend that feels best, and we will meet in downward dog. From downward dog, we have one more coming. Let's inhale, bend the knees, look forward. Exhale, walk or hop to the front of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, Tadasana, push down to rise up, maybe even look up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, Tadasana, find the peak of the mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, Chaturanga. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha or upward facing. Exhale, Adho Mukha, downward facing. Now from downward dog, let's go ahead and drift forward to high plank. Drop your left knee to the mat. Press into the top of your left foot, lifting your right foot up off the mat, flex the heel. Now you're going to slowly begin to reach your right arm up towards the sky, lifting your right hip and shoulder towards the ceiling, coming into Vashisthasana with that modification. But this time the toes do point straight back, so it'll probably be a little bit more challenging if you had your toes turned out in that bottom leg. Pull the belly to the spine. Now I want you to begin to pull your right knee towards your chest. Try to keep it high, up in line with your armpit almost. You can either look down to the mat. You might even use your right hand to grab hold of your right ankle. You're going to step your right foot to the front of the mat. Reach both arms up, low lunge, crescent. Sinking the hips forward and down, squeezing the inner thighs closer together. Tucking your back toes. Let's drive the back heel back just enough that your knee hovers a little bit up off the mat. So tapping into that strength, building some heat. Let's try to be soft in the face. Deepen your breath. And then without shattering your left kneecap, gently set the knee down, release your hands down, pull your front leg straight. Left hip should stop at the center of the knee. Flex your whole right foot back. Rock to the back of your heel. And I want you to imagine dragging your right heel towards your left knee. So you're keeping that hamstring safe. It's active. Relax the head and neck for now. Find your breath. And then go ahead and slowly rebend your front knee. Reach your arms up to the sky, low lunge crescent. Tucking your back toes. Drive your left heel back, lift that left knee up, working your back leg towards straight, but don't ever be attached to the idea of it getting there. You don't want the tailbone to do that ducktail thing. You want your pelvis to sit neutral. Now pull your hands to heart center. You'll lean your chest halfway forward and pause. This is where your left thigh lifts. That leg gets super straight, and then you twist left elbow to the outside of the knee. Prayer balancing twist. Elbows stack, palms press. Left heel pushes back, left thigh lifts. Right hip hugs in. You're trying to get your thumbs to your sternum bone, but not by pushing your thumbs down. Rather, try to lengthen your spine so much that you can actually lift and twist your sternum bone up to your thumbs. If you want to fly your arms, take a half bind or maybe a full bind, be my guest. But wherever you're at with your twist, keep the twist. I just want you to look down to the mat for balance. Pause. And I want you to squeeze your inner thighs closer together. Pull the belly in and just lift your left elbow an inch up off the thigh. In your mind's eye, I want you to premeditate Warrior Two, and as you're ready, fan your arms open, Warrior Two, back heel turns down. Whew. Line up the feet. Your front heel should line up with the back heel or back arch. That is preference. Just make sure those back toes turn forward at least 10 degrees. Left thigh presses back as your right thigh draws forward. Get the knee to your ankle. Push it out to the right. You should be able to see your big toe, maybe even your second toe. Tuck your tailbone down. Pull the lower belly in. As you knit the front ribs in, the back ribs should jump up off your kidneys, and that'll give you the space to pull your left side ribs in line with the right, as if you're leaning your shoulders against the wall behind you. Nice. Arms expand apart. Hands float just above your shoulders as you resist your shoulder blades down the back, turning on your lats and your serratus. As you focus over your front hand, flip the right palm up. Inhale, reach it up, reverse warrior. Back hand stays light. Top arm stays straight. Up comes first. The backward reach will come when you let your right leg come forward. And then think of jumping your right hip bone up off the top of your thigh. Pull the belly in. Take an inhale. Exhale, right forearm to right thigh. Left arm will go up and overhead. Extended side angle. Ground down to the knife edge of your back foot. That top palm should face the mat. Wrap that left tricep towards your face. Hug your front body in. Push into your right forearm so you can roll your right shoulder blade down the back. And again, lengthen your right ribs forward into it. Now try to keep the lift and the length in your right side body, but can you reach your right arm forward to meet the left? Unsupported side angle. Breathe. Now you'll look down to the mat. Push down, warrior two, come up. Flip your right palm up, reach up, reverse warrior, take an inhale. Exhale, cartwheel your hands to the mat, step back, lower slow. Chaturanga, inhale brings your back bend, and exhale, downward dog. Now from downward dog, let's inhale to high plank. Drop your right knee directly under the hip, top of the foot is down. Now you'll float your left foot up. As you begin to reach your left arm up, lift your left hip and shoulder towards the ceiling. Push as much as you can into that right shin, the top of the foot to stabilize. Pull your belly towards the spine. Now you're going to slowly bend your left knee and pull it towards your left armpit. So forward but up, so it's not falling to the mat. Looking down, you either grab your left ankle with your hand, but you're going to step your left foot forward, reach both arms to the sky. As the hips descend, remember, squeeze the inner thighs close together, pull the belly in, knit the front ribs in. Keep those arms actively reaching for the ceiling as if they could even touch it. Now we'll tuck the back toes, driving the heel back just enough that the knee hovers, less than we want it to. Breathe in and out your nose. I stopped using measurements in yoga because when I say hover your knee an inch, it hovers up like 7 inches. So, just imagine I had my fingernail between your knee and the mat. Gently set your knee down, release your hands down, pull the front leg straight. Flex the left foot back, drag your left heel back, hug the inner thighs close together, let your forehead fall more towards your shin. Breathe in and out your nose, maybe even close your eyes, nod your head yes, shake it no. And then slowly rebend your front knee, reach your arms up. Tuck the back toes, driving the heel back, lift your right thigh bone up to get that back leg nice and strong. Pulling the hands to heart center. As you're ready, you'll lean forward halfway to pause, energize the back leg, pull the belly in and then twist. Right elbow to the outside of that left knee. Right heel pushes back, right thigh bone lifts, elbows stack into your palms press. So you're not only trying to broaden both collarbones here, but you're also trying to get space between the shoulders. So roll the shoulders down the back, and even here, think of protracting them to your outer ribs, turning on the lats, the serratus. Knit the ribs in, even if you open your arms or bind. You want to be breathing as deeply now as you were in our very first child's pose. At least that's the goal. Now keeping your twist, you'll just look down, pull the belly and squeeze your inner thighs close together, hover your right elbow off the leg. And then as you're ready, warrior two, cartwheel your arms open, turn the back heel down. Heel to heel alignment or heel to arch. Back toes anchor forward at least 10 degrees, it could be a little bit more. Inner thighs work away from each other, so your inner right thigh, it wraps back as your inner left thigh draws forward, knee to the ankle, pushing the knee out to the left. Tailbone draws down, front ribs hug in, that right side ribs pull back. Arms expand apart, shoulders drop down the back. As you focus over your front hand, you'll flip the left palm up. Inhale, reach it up, reverse warrior. Remember, left thigh, it gets heavy, it's still coming forward. Left hip is lifting, it's jumping to your left hand to extend back. Breathe. Keep that space you've created in the left side body. Take an inhale. Exhale, left forearm to left thigh. Right arm will go up and overhead, grounding down as much into your back foot as you are pushing into your front foot. Push into your right thigh. Hug the front ribs in. Wrap your right tricep towards your face. Lift on those left side ribs. Hug your lower belly in, and then maybe try reaching your left arm forward as if you're holding a yoga block over your head. Eventually the hands come closer and closer together. Breathe in and out your nose. Now looking down. We push down, warrior two, come up. Pause, don't straighten the leg, but flip your left palm up. Inhale, reach up, stretch, take one deep inhale. Exhale, windmill the hands down, step back, chaturanga, lower slow. Inhale, cobra or up dog. And exhale, downward dog. From downward dog, go ahead and drop to your knees. All fours, knees under hips, wrists under shoulders. So I want you to stay on all fours, especially if you're on a hardwood. If you're on a carpet, it won't be as big of a deal. But if you're on a hardwood or tile surface, I want you to turn your whole body to the right as if you're going to crawl off to the right. So you're going to crawl towards the camera. Turn your toes. So you're on all fours, but crawl forward so your knees and your feet are on the mat. There you go. That's going to be more comfortable for your joints. So we'll take this in the evolutionary process. So I want you to sit back on your heels, bring your big toes to touch. Now on your heels, you're going to open your knees as far apart as they'll go towards the outer edges of the mat. And then maybe you begin to crawl your hands forward like a very over-exaggerated open hip child's pose. In yin, we call this tadpole pose. So if your hips, the inner thigh, the groin feel okay here, you're going to continue to crawl your hands forward and begin to lift your hips up in line with your knees. So the hips will come in line with the knees, the arms crawl further forward. Maybe you stay up on your forearms. You could stay here. If you want to go a little further, you're going to open your feet up to be the same distance as the knees and flex your feet. So you want to rest on the inner edge or the arches of the feet. Maybe the knees slide further apart, maybe they don't. And you don't want to necessarily sink your hips back in between the heels, but rather keeping the knees in line with your ankles. Just depending on how far you want to take it. Sometimes it feels better to have them slightly in front of your knees. Just really take account as to how the groin and the inner hips are feeling. Notice if the butt does pop up and your lower back dumps, you want to tuck the tailbone and pull the lower belly in. And then depending on if you have your props and how low you are to the ground, you might put a prop under your chest, you might put a prop under your forearms and your forehead. But taking away some of the weight that's pressing into the inner groin. Our frog pose. Notice if there's any part of your body that is resisting this pose. This tends to be a pose that most people do not enjoy doing. I personally love this pose. I feel like I like all the poses people hate doing the most. But it's an external hip opener. It releases the inner groin. It gets into all the tendons where the adductors connected, and the knees, the femur bone and pubic bone. And we have gravity kind of doing a lot of the work for us, pulling the weight of our hips towards the mat. So try to soften anything that may be tensing. The outer glutes, your hands if they're making fists. Relax your jaw. Unfurrow the eyebrows. Close the eyes if they're not already. And breathe. In and out your nose. In a pose like this, I really feel like you have to sit here for longer than a minute to really feel what's happening. And then beyond that sensation of feeling what's happening, it's then allowing your body to cultivate and absorb what's happening. And that is why in yin we have to sit for time. Generally 3 to 5 minutes in a given pose. And ideally 5 to 10, maybe even 15 minutes, particularly within a given joint. Last few breaths. So this tends to be one of those poses that we wish we had one of those exit buttons out of. But it's very important that you don't just jump out of this, especially because we are working with the tendons of the body. So listen carefully. It's going to be like reverse evolution. You're going to bring your big toes to touch behind you. And then, so you're in half frog, slowly step up onto your hands. Sit your hips back towards your heels. And then once you're on your heels, use one hand at a time to close your knees together. Oh. The last thing you ever want to do with your adductors or any muscle after you've stretched it is to engage it. Sit your hips to the back of your mat. Bring your legs out in front of you. Find your sit bones. So grab the cushion, aka butt cheek. Pull it back. Do the same thing to both sides. And then you can open your legs up very much just to a V. If you want to take them a little wider, bend the knees and make your feet wider than the edges of the mat and turn your toes out. Elbows inside the knees, cupping the earth with the fingertips. So most important is that your tailbone is not rounding underneath you. And with your knees bent, it should be enough of a give in the hamstrings so you can lift the pelvis out from underneath you. Now pull the belly and knit your ribs and drop your forehead towards your pubic bone. Try and get as round as you possibly can. And then begin to crawl your hands forward, bringing your forehead to rest on a block or 2 or 3. However many prompts you need to get your forehead to rest. Arms can hang. Knees and toes point in the same direction. So this is like Ardha Kurmasana, or the half turtle pose. If you have the full Kurmasana in your practice where your arms snuggle underneath your hamstrings, like you're putting your legs on like a backpack, and then your legs go straight out, Be my guest, but I'm more interested in the rounding of the spine necessarily than that deep stretch in the hamstrings. So rounding the spine, we're still working within the inner groin, the external rotation of the hips. But after frog pose, this should come relatively easy, physically speaking. You should be able to sit a bit more passively, not necessarily counting the seconds until you can come up and out. Instead, dropping into your breath. Allowing the mind to meet the body. The body is still, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the mind will follow. And it's generally actually the unease of the mind that causes us to be fidgety within the body. So if you've landed within stillness, physically speaking, or maybe notice if you are fidgeting, twitching, shaking, or trembling. Kind of those muscle memories of the constant state of go that we normally live in. Try to appease them by taking a few deeper breaths. And then once the body is relatively still, within as much of your control as possible, focus on your mind. Its go-to thoughts, patterns, and habits, the stories it concocts, excuses it may give. Is it even still here on the mat, or is it ventured off to life beyond it? Give your mind something to focus on. So I like to tell my students to try to get every inhale to be anywhere between 7 to 15 seconds long. And even if your inhale is only 5 seconds long, that's perfect. Just be sure your exhale is the same amount of time, if not maybe even a little bit longer. And if you think those numbers are unrealistic, just remind yourself that breathing in the lungs are just like every other muscle in our body. It takes time, practice, commitment, and effort. And over time, you will be able to take longer, fuller, deeper breaths. So I like to exit on an exhale, especially because we're now working within the vertebrae of the spine. You want to give it some support. So pull the belly in as you exhale, and as slowly as you possibly can, you're going to begin to roll your spine up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Let the head and neck be last to come. And then we'll take the blocks. If you don't have blocks, ideally firmer pillows, maybe 2 of them. We're going to set up for Supta Baddha Konasana. So setting up the blocks behind you. The first block, you want it to be in between the shoulder blades, whether it runs horizontally or vertically. Vertically is going to be a bit more gentle in the front body because it's less of an extreme bend for the spine. Rather than trying to bend over the block, it kind of lays across it. The block that goes underneath your head should be 1 level lower than the first block. And generally for the thoracic spine, I say stick with small or medium in the height. And then once you've set up your bolsters, your blocks, your pillows, you'll bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees flop open. By no means do the feet actually have to be all the way up and towards your groin. That's going to be obviously more intense for everything involved. But if you feel that your hip flexors and the inner groin is kind of seizing or stressing too much, as if they're trying to close your legs together, slide your feet more to the front of your mat so you're creating more of a diamond shape. And then arms, as long as they fall down your sides, the palms face up. That'll help broaden the collarbone. If you want to add cactus arms, bowing at the elbows, maybe even grabbing opposite elbows over your head and just letting gravity pull your arms down, that's going to add a yin for the shoulder joint. It's hard to get into the joints of the upper body in our yin practice, so when we can, if we can, it's always nice to add it, but by no means is it necessary. And then just close your eyes and allow your body to begin to melt over the blocks. Just getting heavy. As the body gets heavy, just notice how the center, the heart center, gets lighter, lifting towards the sky. And with the front of your body open and full, try to take deeper breaths. And with every inhale, you're trying to create an opening and space. And then with every exhale, creating a softness, and as a result, depth. And then you, by all means, can stay here for the duration of Savasana, maintaining that back bend. If you want to stay on the blocks and slide your legs out to release the work we've been doing in the hips, be my guest. If you want to come off the blocks, I don't want you to have to come back up, so just listen carefully. You're going to reach your right arm over your head, just letting your arm kind of dangle next to your ear. Take your left hand to the outside of your left thigh. You're going to close that left leg on top of the right and then gently roll onto your right hand side. You can use your left hand kind of in front of you to help guide yourself off, but your head should fall on your right arm. Knees kind of curling into the chest as you remove the props from behind you. And then as you're ready, rolling onto your back legs, long arms out by your sides, Savasana. Closing the eyes, and this is where we're meant to find a full sense of release, right? The body now lays corpse-like, getting long and heavy on the earth. The mind no longer has to think about how the body is feeling because of what it's doing. You can even let go of your breath. And really, the key word within Savasana is dissolution. You want the body and the mind to dissolve. Your responsibilities, obligations, and attachments do the same. And try to dissolve just for a moment you or the soul's connection to the body and mind. Stepping aside, having as close to an out-of-body experience as you can get. Finding the ultimate sense of release. And just setting yourself free. So the word asana, to most people's knowledge or understanding, means pose. But the literal translation means to sit still. And yet every single pose, whether it's warrior two, half moon, those very active poses where you're clearly not in a seated position, down to things like frog pose, butterfly pose, where we are on the mat. They all end in the word asana. And obviously it had nothing to do with necessarily the physical position of the body. You're not sitting on your butt. The yogis were talking about the state of the mind. That regardless of where you find yourself, in what pose, the intensity levels, within the yang or the yin portion of practice, being able to sit still within the mind. So often people think that yoga is a mindless practice in the sense that we get to leave behind everything for an hour, hour and a half. But really it's meant to be quite the opposite, where it is meant to become mindful in everything we do. The mind becomes so fully absorbed sitting still with what it is that we're doing that we can, for a brief period of time, gain a little control of the erratic thoughts of the mind, or that monkey mind as they call it. And eventually the goal is to allow everything we do in life to become an asana. Whether that is washing your dishes and driving your car, having a conversation with a total stranger, right? Rather than trying to do 150 things at once. Cook dinner while on a phone call, while text messaging and creating an Instagram post and yelling at your kids and all these other things that constantly are happening. Just trying to be fully focused in whatever it is that you're doing. And then with time, within that stillness of what we're doing, we can really decipher as to whether or not what we are doing is in our best interests. And that goes from the asana to everything off the mat. So let's begin to wiggle the toes, the fingers. You can roll out your ankles, your wrists, stretch your arms up and overhead, point through the toes. As you're ready, roll to your right or left hand side. Take your time, there's no rush. And then with your own time and with your eyes still closed, you'll walk up to a comfortable seat. Whatever that is for your body at this time is up to you. You can rest your hands on your knees in your lap or bring them to heart center. But wherever you go, just sit up tall, close your eyes, and come back to your breath. You hear it so often that what we do here on the mat is meant to permeate our day-to-day life off the mat. But we have to first really understand what it is we're doing on the mat in order for that transition to occur. So now hopefully you have a bit deeper of an understanding of what asana really truly means and is. And with that, you can implement it into your practice and into everything you do within your day. So on that note, just something to think about, something to take with you and work with beyond the rubber mat. On that note, namaste.